Hello dear students, welcome back. So we had been discussing the parts of speech during the previous classes. Today's topic from verb is finite verbs and infinite verbs. Finite verbs, the verbs which give clear meaning or indicate the proper tense are called finite verbs. The verbs which give clear meaning or indicate the proper tense are called finite verbs. Finite verbs are V1, V2 and V5. V1 means the base or root form of the verb, V2 the past form, and V5, V1 plus sibling suffixes S or ES. For example, we study well. Here, study is the finite verb, V1. Our teachers taught us good manners. Here, taught is the finite verb, V2, past form of teach. God loves all. Here, loves is the finite verb, the V5 form of love, love plus S, the sibling suffix. In all the three sentences, the verb forms are complete and meaningful. So, they are called finite verbs. A clause which includes a finite verb is called finite clause. A clause which has a finite verb in it is called a finite clause. For example, when I reached home, my mother gave me a cup of coffee. Here there are two clauses. When I reached home, it's a subordinate clause because it's not complete. My mother gave me a cup of coffee. It's a main clause because it gives the complete sense. In the above sentence, the second clause can exist without the help of the first one. It has complete meaning. So, it is called main clause. A main clause is also called independent clause because it does not depend on any other clause, and also the principal clause. The first clause has a full-fledged verb, that is a finite verb, but the clause doesn't give a complete meaning. So, it is called a subordinate clause or a dependent clause because it depends on the main clause and has no self-existence. It doesn't give a complete sense on its own. See here, on reaching home, my mother gave me a cup of coffee. On reaching home, my mother gave me a cup of coffee. The above sentence gives the same idea that the previous sentence gives. But there is a difference here. The first sentence has two finite clauses. The second sentence has one main clause and one non-finite clause, a clause without a finite verb. The verb in that clause is reaching, V4, reach plus ing, the continuous form. It doesn't give complete meaning. It's not clear whether the tense is in present or past or future. It has no specific tense. So, that verb is non-finite verb. That's why this clause is called a non-finite clause. Now coming to non-finite verbs. See, participles and infinitives are non-finite verbs like V3, the participle form. For example, G-O-N-E, gone. V3 form of go. Next, V4, V1 plus ing, the continuous form. For example, going, V4 form of go, ing form. Infinitive, that means 2 plus V1, the base or root form. For example, to go is the infinitive here. So let's discuss in detail with examples. The past participle first. Drawn water from the well, he watered the plants. Here there are two clauses. Drawn water from the well is a non-finite clause because it doesn't give a complete sense. He watered the plants. It is a main or finite clause because it gives a complete or clear idea of the sentence. Next, coming to the present participle. Going to market, he bought some vegetables. Going to market, he bought some vegetables. Going to market is a non-finite clause here because the idea is not complete here. It's not clear. He bought some vegetables. This clause is finite clause because it gives a clear idea and a complete sense. Infinitive. She stood there to answer the questions. She stood there to answer the questions. She stood there. It gives a complete sense. There is a subject, there is a verb. It has a complete sense. That is a finite verb is used there, stood. So it is main or finite clause. To answer, that means I had already told you to plus V1, the base form. To answer is the infinitive used here. So to answer the question is the non-finite clause. To answer the question, it doesn't give a complete sense on its own, but it is dependent on the clause. She stood there. Why did she stand there? To answer the question. See, with the support of auxiliary verbs, the participles can be changed into finite verbs like be form or have form for past participle, that is for V3, and be form for present participle, that means V4, the ing form. But the infinitive form cannot be changed into a finite verb. So that's all for today. We'll discuss the remaining part in the next video. So please go through the video thoroughly. I hope you are making notes from these videos. If not, please do at the earliest possible. So see you in the next class.